My top 10 anime for newbies. If you were like me growing up and missed out on the glorious world that is anime, or you just never got into the genre, this is the guide to the rest of your lives. Now, this is just my top 10 anime list for newbies to get you hooked on anime. So let's kick things off with everybody's favorite, Hunter x Hunter. Side note, Hunter x Hunter, Hunter by Hunter, I call it Hunter x Hunter now. This show is about a young boy named Gon Freaks who wants to join the Hunters Association in pursuit of finding his long-lost father. Gon's dad is a world-renowned hunter, and throughout the show, Gon and his friend Killua, one of my favorites, take on some super strong, deadly opponents on their journey to find him and become the very best hunters. The show's characters are beautifully developed with complicated and twisted backstories. You fall in love with the characters so easily. The fight scenes are out of this world, very memeable, because some characters have questionable abilities. Hisoka. He has something called the bungee gum. You take that as you will. But it's amazing. It has a lot of seasons, and like many others, it gets better with each one. So check it out. Next up, we have GIQUE. So this was a different type of anime for me. It's about Shoyo Hinata, a young boy determined to become the greatest volleyball player in all of high school. He's notably smaller than a lot of the other players he tries out with, all except maybe the libero, which in volleyball is generally your shortest and speediest player. He goes to Karasuno High School, and throughout the whole anime, they challenge other schools, meet some worthy rivals, characters you love to hate and hate to love. But Hinata develops and gets better and better, and you're just so invested in his journey, you can't help but want to see him win. There are no fight scenes, except maybe a little fight between, the boys on the court or something that happens in sports, but it is still jam-packed with action, intensity, and overall binge-worthiness. I literally found myself crying and cheering alone in my room like I knew these kids. Definitely in my top 10 of all anime. Next up, one of my personal favorites, we have Black Clover. Safe to say this is in my top 3, if not top 2. Black Clover is about a boy named Asta who's born in a world where people get magical powers, but he has no magical powers. Instead of lying down and losing, he chooses to train like no other, fights against all odds stacked against him, and basically never takes no for an answer. He has a dream to become the next Magic King, but again, Asta has no magic. Watch this show to see if he achieves the goal. You guys, I literally watched this show on the elliptical machine at the gym so I could finish my cardio workout. I was so inspired by the main character, Asta's tenacity, his strength, his never giving up, no matter the odds. He literally always kept going. So he helped me with my fitness goals. Like, this dude could be dead on the ground, face down, down and out, and he'd scream, "I'm not done yet," and boom, back to life. You could not ask for a better protagonist. Some people do say he's a little loud, but in a world where you're trying to become the magic emperor and you have no magic, I think you have to yell from time to time, so I love him. Next up is Demon Slayer. When I watched this show, it was still fairly fresh in people's minds, brand new, less than a year old, so it wasn't really hyped yet. It was only one season, so a great way to jump into a show to see if I liked it. I loved it. Demon Slayer is about a boy named Tanjiro and his journey to become a demon slayer after a tragedy strikes upon his family. I don't want to give too much away here, but he takes the journey with his sister Nezuko as the story unfolds. The fight scenes in this show are amazing. Love, love, love the graphics. The art style in this show is absolutely beautiful. The way the characters are designed and the detail in the chaos of each fight, the action is top tier and the storyline lives up to the hype that is now. It is not overhyped. It is hype for a reason. We all know a movie or a TV show that people hype, talk up so big, and then it falls flat. It sucks. It lets you down. This ain't it. Season 1 was good. The movie was better, and season 2 is blowing my mind. So good, check it out. Moving right along, this next one's a weird one, very special. The Promised Neverland. When asking what The Promised Neverland is about, IMDb says, when 3 gifted kids at an isolated, idyllic orphanage discover the secret and sinister purpose that they were raised for, they look for a way to escape from their evil caretaker. And they lead the other children in a risky escape plan. Emma is the mastermind of the show, and her friends Norman and Ray are her biggest motivations. The smartest kids are in the most danger, even though they all are. But there's monsters, there's demons, and the little kids with a strong enough desire not to die do the impossible. There are 2 seasons of this show, but after the first episode in the first season, I was like, what the what? I am hooked. Check them out. Not saying that season 2 is the one that's gonna keep you hooked, but season 1 definitely does the job. I liked season 2, however. I do hear a lot of negative feedback on it, so take a look for yourself, you be the judge. Diving right in, one of the most recognizable anime ever, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Now, if you've heard this title before, a picture of a very flamboyant, over-animated, couture-posing Joestar may pop in your head. And rightfully so. We've all heard the song, JoJo, Pose.
JoJo, pose, pose, pose. JoJo, pose, pose, pose.
JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is about the Joestar family and their journeys to defeating the supernatural foe throughout different timelines. Each season focuses on a new Joestar and his, or her, discovering of the legacy of their prior Joestar, and then going on crazy adventures with the friends they meet along the way to fight countless battles, all stemming from the original Joestar, Jonathan. The outfits, the hairstyles, the pizzazz, the flamboyance literally make you think, what the beep? But then you're just so interested that you can't look away. After getting past the WTF hump, the action, the fight scenes, the interconnectivity of all the storylines really just captivates you, and you're like 3 seasons in on Netflix looking for the rest of the seasons. There are 5 now. Check them all out. I know a series with a lot of seasons sometimes can be intimidating, especially if you're new to anime, like I was. So, moving right along, we have just 1 season of Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen is about a high school student, Yuji Itadori, and follows him on his journey as he joins a secret organization of Jujutsu sorcerers. Their ultimate goal is to kill a super duper powerful curse named Ryomen Sukuna. But wait, Itadori in the first episode becomes his host. Mind blown. A curse needs a body to inhabit to survive, and Sukuna chooses the main protagonist in the show. How cursed of him. Itadori thinks he can suppress or control Sukuna in the times he comes to the surface, so the anime follows him as he battles the most powerful opponents and hones his skills as a sorcerer while navigating his relationship with the demon inside, Sukuna. The power that some of these characters have alone could carry the show. Like, who thought of these abilities? But nevertheless, the action scenes, the fighting sequences are mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, and super badass. This show gave us Gojo Satoru and his domain expansion. Literally one of the best I've ever seen, like truly. Just watch the show, see for yourself. On a lighter note, we have Food War. Now this anime doesn't have your traditional fight scenes, but it's still full of action, battles, and clothes flying off in result of satisfaction. Yes, this show may not be suitable for children. Anywho, in this anime, Soma Yukihira enrolls in an elite culinary school to become a full-time chef and surpass his father's culinary skills. His father is hailed as one of the greatest chefs there was, but he's an elusive man, so Soma and his relationship is the driving factor throughout the whole show. There are chefs from the elites all the way down to the underground chefs, all battling each other to get that top title. Of course, that in itself creates hostility, which makes for a great anime. Soma creates some insane, non-traditional, eccentric dishes in unconventional ways, and it blows the people's minds. Ultimately, Food Wars is about food so good that it makes your clothes burst off into thin air. Food so good that it's orgasmic. And yes, they do show that. It's censored, of course, but I still regret starting that with my dad. Can't unhear or see those things.
Oh, good.
Moving right along, we have Dr. Stone. In the modern world, every human on the planet was turned into stone after a mysterious flash of light. This anime tells the story of how Senku and his friends from the pre-petrification world try to rebuild civilization in the petrification age, aka the stone world, through the power of science. Senku's hair alone carries this show. I mean, look at it. My favorite color, and it's a wispy high top fade with a bang. Amazing. Senku is all about bringing the people back to life to rebuild the world with the power of science as opposed to just brawn. His brawny antagonist counterpart, the world's strongest high schooler, wants to destroy the old hierarchy and rebuild based on power, strength, and basically no adults telling them what they can and cannot do. I like his thinking, but in reality, if this were to happen today, I would be destroyed because unfortunately, I'm an adult.
Oh no!
Love the character design in this show, and I have several that I want to cosplay, so stay tuned for that. This show is fun, it teaches you things you should have learned in science class but did not, and it just keeps you interested to see what he's going to do next, so check it out. And now, one of the most talked about anime in the history of ever. One of the highest rated, highly acclaimed stories in the anime form, Attack on Titan. AOT is set in a world where humans live inside cities surrounded by enormous walls that protect them from the gigantic, man-eating humanoids referred to as Titans. This anime follows the main character, Eren Yeager, who vows to exterminate every last Titan after one destroys his home and eats his mother. Now, these jolly, vicious giants running full speed towards humans to devour them is definitely a mental image you don't forget. It's full of fighting, dying, eating people, and blowing off heads, but I would not say it's gory. I don't know, there's just something about it. The twists and turns in the show are wild. The betrayals, the alliances, the motivations are truly disturbing, but blissful. You just can't stop watching it. So start. Some people say they can't get into it, but some people cannot imagine going on without having seen it. It's definitely in my top 5. Overall, I feel like this is a solid bunch of anime, and after watching these, you can get a good gauge on if you're into it or not. You can determine if you watch it for the storylines, the fight scenes, the achievements of the protagonist like I do, or just the art and animation. From there, you could take a deep dive into the world that is anime and binge for the rest of your lives. Thanks so much, follow us for more, and keep it geek.